Hello, this is No Laugh Track, Acme's official podcast. This is Justin Severson, and we're going with episode 10. I don't know if it is. I might be living in the future. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to stick with 10. 10's a nice, even, solid number. 10 sounds good. I've accomplished a little something. Sitting in the basement at Acme, and my guest is sitting across from me, and it's Josh Sneed.
Hello.
Hello, Josh.
How are you?
And where were you this afternoon?
I was at the Twins White Sox game.
Yeah, me too.
I know. You were working, right?
Yeah. Yes. Normally, we record the podcast in the middle, or I should say right, around 1 o'clock. That didn't work this week, and I found out, I didn't even realize the Twins had a day game until, I work every game. I didn't realize it until Monday. And then I got a hold of someone here at Acme and said, I can't go Wednesday. And then he's like, well, that isn't a problem, blah, blah, blah. And well, now I just talked to him, and he said when he talked to you that you said, well, I hope I can do it, but I'm going to a Twins game.
Well, I was going to come, if I had to leave the game early, I was still going to come for the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I live in Cincinnati, so afternoon games start at 1 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
So it didn't dawn on me that the game starting at noon would be over in time, and I was trying to do the math in my head, and that's when I was just like, I'm going to the baseball game, and he was like, it'll be after that anyway, and I was like, that's all I need to know.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Are you a Reds fan?
Die hard.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How are they doing this year?
They are tied for the best record in the National League.
That can't be possible.
With the Washington Nationals, which also can't be possible.
It's not.
But is. Yeah.
Okay, now tell me the truth. How are they? No, that's amazing.
It is amazing. It's pretty awesome.
Washington and Cincinnati. So, let's see. They're in the division with the Cubs, and the Cubs must be in last place.
Cubs are not in last place. The Astros are.
Oh, that's right.
But they will be gone to the American League at the end of this season, which opens up room for the Cubs to be in last place, which always makes me feel better.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you got St. Louis in third, and surprisingly, the Pittsburgh Pirates are in second place, only 3 games behind the Reds. And then you've got the Brewers as well. So that's the Central. Right. That's the NL Central.
That's the NL Central. Yep.
Yes.
Have you been to Target Field before?
No, I have not. This is my first time.
Yeah.
And just being a big baseball fan, I try to hit every park that I can if there's a game going on while I'm in town.
I would do the exact same thing. That's awesome.
Yeah. So next week I'm in Milwaukee, and they basically said, what week do you want to come? I looked when the Reds were going to be there, and I was like, what about this week? And they were like, it's open. So
no shit.
I'm going up on Tuesday. I'll see the Reds play the Brewers Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I'll just stick around and do shows Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, I'm excited.
That is perfect.
That's another park I haven't been to.
Yeah, so. I've been there. You'll like it.
I heard it's really nice.
Yeah, not as nice as Target Field, of course.
Target Field is great.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. But the huge benefit of Miller Park is the tailgating.
Oh, do they tailgate football games there?
They tailgate, the stadium's in the middle of a gigantic parking lot. So it's crazy. People show up, you wait if you get there 3 hours before the game, you're waiting in line to get to into the parking lot because there's so many people showing up early to tailgate. Oh,
that's awesome.
Dude, they set up I went on a road trip with some friends, and we brought tents and tables and grills, and we had 15 guys last year. We did a road trip when the Twins played in Milwaukee.
Awesome.
Yes, so I don't know how many people you're going to this game with, but you got to get
one other person. But he'll be up for going early. He's a friend of mine, a comedian from Cincinnati. He's going to open for me.
Perfect.
At the club, so he's meeting me up there on Tuesday. We'll do the games. I do a lot of work with the Reds, so I have a bunch of ins. So we're getting tickets from the Reds. And
nice.
I can't wait. I'm a huge baseball fan.
Yeah, I am.
Now,
too.
Let me ask you this. Now, you're selling beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Up and down the aisles?
Yes.
Do people recognize your voice when you're yelling?
I don't know if it's my voice or maybe because we talk about it on the radio show. It comes up every now and then. So it's almost every game where someone says, hey, are you the Justin from the radio? Or it's once a game probably someone says something. I think they just kind of put 2 and 2 together. That they probably saw me in a picture on Facebook or something,
right?
And
at a remote giving away T-shirts. Or something.
Exactly. So I don't know if it's so much the voice, but they put it together.
That's got to be fun though, right?
Yeah, it's super cool. And I'll tell you what. Shout out to the KQ Morning Show listeners. They all tip really well when they buy beers.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yes,
That's
they take
awesome.
good care of me. I'm very appreciative.
And you work every game.
Yeah.
Is it good money, or you just like being there, or?
It's both. It's the money is sometimes really good, sometimes terrible. But it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I love baseball. It's fun being there. I don't want to be there every game. It's just kind of how they run things over there.
Sure.
But it's fun.
A friend of mine did.
I tell you what, though, I do want to say this real quick.
Yeah.
Being at every game, I get really sick of all the hijinks in between innings.
That they pretend like only happens for that game.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the kiss cam again, ever again.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the mascots, the ripoff of the county stadium or Milwaukee thing where they run around.
Oh yeah.
They have like the wiener races at in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Here we have like, I don't know, it's some sponsored thing. I don't know. It's from Target, so you probably saw it. There's Bullseye, and then it's I don't know. There's a mosquito or something, and it's just you're ripping off another stadium and all that. The people dancing on the dugouts in between innings. It gets old.
Yeah,
really
it does.
old.
Well, if you think that's bad, you should go to a minor league game. That's the worst.
I used to work at one, so I know. We have an independent team in St. Paul. I used to work at those games. Yeah,
the independent team's always fun.
Yeah, where the players are in their late 20s and have really no chance of ever making it to the big leagues if they ever did. That was their one shot.
Yeah,
they're just kind of like still getting a paycheck and living the dream, sort of. But it's not. You're not going to those games for the quality of baseball.
Right.
It's more of
and
just
they have to know that too, right? Like no matter how good you are in the independent league.
I'll tell you what.
You have to know that dollar beer night is going to be way more popular than you are.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They know who they are when they look at their paychecks. I used to I could almost guarantee that when I worked at those independent games, I made more selling beers at some of those games than those players were making on that field. I truly believe that's true.
Maybe they should do that. Like the pitchers on their days off, they sell beer to supplement their income.
I'm telling you, to keep them in shape instead of jogging by the outfield wall, they could up there do some stairs. Come on.
It's hilarious.
What's your connect? What do you said you do something with the Cincinnati Reds? What do you do there?
The Reds, they have a very big charity arm called the Reds Community Fund, and basically their mission is to get baseball back into like the inner city, like get kids playing baseball again. By introducing leagues where inner city kids will play like the more affluent suburban area teams and, mix and match them up. And they have the RBI program, which is all through Major League Baseball.
I've heard of that.
And the new owners that bought the Reds a couple years ago, they took a big initiative to really get that charity going. And so whenever they need a comedian or an MC or an auctioneer or something, they use me. And then in return, if I ever need tickets or something cool,
sweet. And
then that is fostered relationships with some of the players, and so it's really cool to be a diehard Reds fan. But then the announcers and the broadcasters and some of the players and the owner of the team,
really
the GM, like they know my name when they see me. Like it's very surreal to me, but very cool.
Now, if they let's say in the next 5 years, if they win the World Series, I expect to see you on TV in the locker room popping champagne.
I just want a ring.
A ring?
I want a ring.
Hell yeah.
That'd be awesome.
It doesn't even have to fit. I
That's
just want a ring.
everybody on payroll gets one, like the grounds people and everything. So
it is kind of ridiculous.
If I can just convince them that I did enough that year, hopefully this year,
that would be sweet.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah, that is comical that like the person in charge of selling tickets gets a World Series ring.
Yeah.
Really?
They
couldn't have done it without you pushing those tickets.
It's like the Reds. I mean, it's weird because in this business, as you know, and in radio business, like you get to meet some really big names that people are impressed by when they see that you're in a picture with them. But for me, meeting a guy that used to play for the Reds that was on the big red machine or the national, the World Series team in 1990, I get more weird about meeting them than I do some of the people I've met when
Yeah.
I visited Saturday Night Live or something.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
I still can't quite wrap my head around why. I guess just as when you're a kid, like they're just larger than
They
life,
actually
and
are.
you still kind of hold them in that regard. But I get to play in like these charity golf outings and stuff, and
Oh yeah.
I just look to my left and right, and it's like, God, you were on a poster on my wall when I
Yeah.
was a kid.
Yeah, I know.
and that's way more cool than meeting a movie star.
Yeah, I do have to say one thing about that. I have that same sort of deal. There was a guy that he was the catcher for the Twins in 1987. Well, at least, I think he was gone by 91. On the 87 World Series team, he was the catcher, Tim Laudner.
Mm-hmm.
And now he still lives in town. He does some work for the cable channel that does the games here. And he also listens to the morning show, so knows who I am through that. And once, like 3-4 years ago, came up and said hi to me in the hallway at the Metrodome where the Twins used to play. I
Yeah.
could have died.
Yeah.
This is a guy that the year the Twins won the World Series, he hit 191. He's not a star. He was a one-time All-Star, I think, in '88.
But you know
maybe?
what's amazing about
But
that?
I was blown away.
Absolutely.
Like, Tim Laudner knows who I am.
And that's
This is
and
fucking
how cool is
awesome.
that for him? Because we talk about this all the time, especially at these charity golf outings that I go to. Is like all he has to do for the rest of his life is be Tim Laudner.
Yeah.
That's all he has to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like like I did this Ohio State Buckeye Cruise for Cancer that Chris Spielman puts on in memory of his wife, and they basically rent a Norwegian cruise line and bring all these former Ohio State football, a couple basketball players on the boat, and then the rest is filled with fans.
Yeah.
And it's just like you realize that, I mean, this guy was great in college for 3 years.
Yeah.
At the most, maybe 2. And that's all he has to do for the rest of his life is just be a guy who was awesome when he played for Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's all he has to do. He just has to live in Columbus, show up at autograph sessions, make a couple grand for each one,
Yeah.
and then play golf. Or like I just can't wrap my head around that kind of life. You know what I mean? Where
Why weren't we better athletes? What went wrong?
I don't know. That's why I got a 1-year-old. That's why now I'm like, look, you got to start hitting left-handed and
Lefty. Got to
yeah.
be lefty. Pitch lefty.
Throw left. He grabbed a ball out of my hand the other day and threw it with his left hand. I was like, this could be the greatest because I'm left-handed.
Oh, okay.
But my parents didn't have the foresight of knowing had they got me into pitching at an earlier age how much it could have paid off for them. But
you.
I do.
Yeah. Sneed, the last name, makes
Yeah.
me think of like why? Why does it make me think of this? Maybe you can help. A villain. Like
Yep.
a cartoon villain?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, there's 2 actual that are as close. Dr. Seuss had characters called the Thneeds, which were the they were the like destroying.
I love that you first.
They were destroying the planet. They were like tearing down all the trees and stuff like that. I believe in the
the Lorax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Captain Hook had his right hand man's name was Sneed.
That's it. I bet that's it. I did just see the Lorax movie with my girls this, within the last whatever that was, several months.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Peter Pan, the Captain Hook, Sneed.
Yeah.
I bet that's what it is. I think it's. I was thinking about asking you that. I'm like, you know what? He may look at me like, are you fucking making fun of me or something? Like, what's your deal? dude?
No.
Like,
There's
you
not
had
a lot
an
of
answer.
things even close to the last name. It's either that or the Sam Sneed, the golfer.
Oh yeah, I know that name, but no,
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of that one.
There's not a lot of fun to be had with my last name, which I guess is a blessing. That there's, it's not Smith or something.
Yeah, it's stands out. That is funny.
I'd like to be thought of as a villain. I feel like that would be kind of cool, right?
It's got to be the it's the little sidekick of Captain Hook.
Yep.
But except I'm picturing you with the curly
Raleigh
mustache,
fingers
the Raleigh
mustache.
finger, like where you're like doing with the wax at the end of it.
I'm obsessed with villains. We have a Halloween party every fall called the Trick or Sneed, and we started doing themes. And so this year we're doing villains. You have to show up as a villain. So maybe I could be Captain Hook's right hand man and still be Sneed,
dude.
I'm obsessed. I don't know why. Like, I feel like that's probably not healthy to be obsessed with villainy. But
You know
with
what-
wrestling, I don't know if you're a pro wrestling fan.
I on and off throughout my life.
Had a nice discussion last night with the MC about professional wrestling, and I've always cheered for the bad guy. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Darth Vader, my favorite Star Wars character.
me too.
I've always been obsessed with the bad guy.
I saw a girl at the Twins game today that had some of the coolest, most realistic looking Star Wars tattoos I've ever seen.
Did you
Yes.
get pictures?
No, and I even stopped her, like it was on like the bottom part of her leg, like from the knee to the ankle, and you might have to help me out with this one. I can't think of the name. It's the
I'll know it.
the bounty hunter character, the Princess Leia. Like, what did they call her when she was wearing the? Didn't she have this?
Bosk?
No, it's not Bosk. That's somebody else. Maybe they just called it. I don't know. But you know what I'm talking about. In Return of the Jedi, when
Boosh or
Bausch or something.
yeah,
Bausch,
yeah.
bounty hunter. That's
when she showed up at Jabba's palace.
Yes. So this girl had that like from,
What? That's a random character.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
cool as hell. And then she had like the outline of the Death Star, and she had an AT-AT.
What?
Yes, it was like a whole scene, like a collage all the way around her leg, and not like cartoonish. It was like it looked like it was like. Like if they could transfer a print from the movie onto her leg. It was unbelievable.
Well, there's a girl who does radio. She's on the morning show that comics go on in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And she has a bunch of Star Wars tattoos that are really cool. But the reason I know so much is my dad, when I was growing up, worked for Kenner Toys.
What?
Yeah. So I had everything.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I literally had everything. I sold it all when I quit my day job to do stand-up full-time. I put it all on eBay. And I kept all my other toys except Star Wars because that was the time to unload Star Wars. But I still have, starting lineups. Do you remember starting lineups?
Of course I do.
A little
I have
3-inch.
some. Yeah.
I have 700 of them in my basement or something crazy. My sister still has a 4-foot Care Bear. I mean, you should see all this stuff. But as a kid, I mean, you can't think of a better scenario than that your dad works for.
Yeah, my dad was a math
that
teacher.
Makes Star Wars toys. But I've always been obsessed with Star Wars because that was like me and my dad, like that was the thing that we shared.
Yeah.
Every time a movie came out, he got to go see it early because he worked for Kenner, and so like it was like when the movie came out, like I knew him and I were gonna go see the movie, and it's I'm obsessed still to this day.
And you sold all that stuff.
I sold all that stuff to help cushion me, into the full-time comedian lifestyle, and it was a smart thing to do. Like I got a lot of money for it. It was the right time, but. Like when episode 1 came out, I mean, what was that, like 98 or something? Yeah, it was. I'll never forget this. I was 21 and my roommate was 20, and we were really excited about the movie coming out, and we went to the toy store, and I got the Obi-Wan Kenobi, the green lightsaber, and he bought the Darth Maul, the double red.
Yep.
And we went to the toy store, and then we went to the grocery, and attached to the grocery was the alcohol, like liquor store or whatever. Like all the beer and wine and stuff was in this part of the grocery store.
Yep.
So we did our grocery shopping. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and then he was like, "Hey, will you get me some beer?" And I was like, "Sure." I have to go into this other part. So he's like, "All right, I'll take these out to the car." So he leaves with the groceries. I go in, I buy the beer. I'm now walking out to the car. And he is standing on the hood of my car, and he's got his lightsaber out of the package and inserted batteries, and he presses the button, and each side shoots out, and it lights up red, and I look down, and maybe 15 feet in front of the car, I see my lightsaber opened up. I'm guessing the batteries are probably in it.
Yeah.
I put the beer down, pick it up, turn it on, and we swung at each other like we were trying to win the home run derby in the parking lot of this grocery store at 11 o'clock at night. By the time we were done, there were about 25 people watching us. And it was the most fun I think I've ever had as an adult. I mean, swinging as hard as we could, just and they made the sound, you know.
Dude, I just bought them for my daughters for my girls' birthdays are in April and June, and they each got different.
Good for you.
Lightsabers, yeah.
See, I just bought Dean actually it was right before Easter, so he wasn't even one yet. I bought him and me lightsabers, and these are like nice, like they have like a glass tube where the color like fills up the tube as you turn it on, and when they touch each other, it sounds like they clash. And so those are in the basement waiting for the day that he can wield one. And I got him all these little stuffed, like, you know, Darth Vader, if you squeeze its stomach, it's like, you know, like, I've had more fun buying stuff for him and praying to God he's into it one day.
I know. I got my kids exposed just from some of my toys that have been sitting around, like the loose old ones. You know, I've just there's so many. The ones that I have, they're not in packages. I'd never be able to sell them for anything. Yeah. You know, so I figure why not just.
Well, most of mine were that way too. Like I took everything out of the package when the Star Wars stuff when I was a kid, or he would bring them home not in packages because a lot of
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, they had this company store. Which, like, if the corner of the package got bent, the store would ship it back and say, we can't sell this. And then Kenner would remove the figure and then put it in, like, a Ziploc bag and then sell it for $0.25 at the factory store.
Yeah.
So he would bring home a lot of toys that were basically already out of their package but had never been used.
Yeah.
So a lot of my stuff was like that. But then he would bring the stuff that sold for the most money is stuff that they would mess around with when they were at the shop. Like he would take, like, you know, Han Solo's head and put it on Princess Leia's body. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Stuff like that. And that's the kind of thing that these collectors really spend the most money on.
Unique. It's all about being unique.
And so so I had all kinds of weird stuff, you know, that you couldn't buy in a store. And then what got really cool was then I got into high school and I wasn't really playing with Star Wars toys, but Kenner had purchased Tonka, which owned Sega at the time. So all my friends had the old school Nintendo, and I had the Sega version of it, the Sega Master System, and the same thing applied. If a package of a game got damaged, they would take out the instructions and the game and put it in a Ziploc bag and sell it for like $2. And so I had every game for like $50.
Holy shit.
And it was awesome.
Were you the most popular kid in school?
I got invited to every birthday party.
Yeah.
Every kid knew that I was going to bring a toy.
Yeah.
The only downfall of it was I only got Kenner toys.
Yeah.
So like Transformers and G.I. Joe and a lot of the stuff that was really cool, I never got because my dad didn't make those. And like the only thing I ever wanted so bad was that G.I. Joe aircraft carrier. Do you remember that?
I didn't have it.
It was like the size of a small bedroom.
Yeah, it was huge.
And I wanted that thing so bad, and I knew I was never going to get it. So instead I got an AT-AT, you know, in the Millennium Falcon. And God, this brings back so many memories.
It doesn't even matter now, and I'm still jealous. Like the 10-year-old me is like, man, I wish I could have been you.
Oh, it was awesome. Like he would go to the toy fair in New York, and he would bring home catalogs that all the different companies put out that showed like what was coming out that year, and I would just like, it was like a comic book to me.
Yeah,
like, you know, it was as cool as having an actual toy to be able to flip through and see toys that were coming out before anybody else got to, because he brought that book home.
There's nothing bigger in a little boy's world.
Our big thing was to take Star Wars figures and put them up on this shelf.
Yeah.
And then my dad, he was a machinist. So basically, like, they would give him the blueprint of a toy, and he would build a working model of it. And then they would have it painted, and then it would be submitted to the higher-ups to say, yes, let's go with this, or make this change, or we're not going to do it. So he built these like rubber band guns, and that was like my favorite thing to do, was we'd get across the room and try to knock over the Star Wars figures with rubber bands. So
Did he ever bring home any of these prototype toys?
Oh yeah, that's the kind of stuff that sold the most money. They're called first shots because they have Sharpie markings on them of the notes that they were given of like, here, we need to change this or do this. So they would write in Sharpie, like right on the
and they're not colored.
Toy.
They're just like, what color would they be? Pink or
they'd be like solid gray.
Yeah,
like whatever color the plastic was.
Yeah,
and then and that's how these collectors knew which ones were first shots, because they could like look and go, oh yeah, this line right here is moved 2 inches on the final product.
Jesus.
So we know this one is like an authentic. And it's funny too to look back and just kind of hindsight. When Return of the Jedi was coming out, before it came out, it was supposed to be called Revenge of the Jedi. Yep. And George Lucas said at the last minute, like, revenge isn't really a quality that a Jedi would show, so they scrapped it and changed it to Return. But by that time, they had already done the cardboard backs of the figures. It's on that plastic bubble,
as they call it.
Yeah, that said Revenge of the Jedi, and they would do them in giant sheets that had 50 cards, and then those sheets would get cut.
Yeah,
and then
you didn't have any of those.
They had sheets and sheets and sheets that said Revenge that they had to throw away, so they threw them in the dumpster. And my dad and all his coworkers are the kind of guys that, fix the car when it breaks. You know what I mean? They're that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And so he changed his own oil, so him and all his buddies took these sheets home, and they'd put them down on the floor in the garage to change the oil so that the oil didn't get on the garage floor. And he must have brought home 20 of them just himself. And I guess a couple people kept them. And those things went at the height. I don't know what they're worth now, but when I was selling all my stuff, these guys actually asked, do you have any of these sheets? And they were going for $5,000.
I bet
for one sheet.
Yeah.
And my dad easily had 20 of them that he went through, and they'd be covered in oil and dust, and he'd throw them away and put a new one down.
I was thinking you were going to say, "Oh yeah, that was the wallpaper in my bedroom."
No. That would still be worth more than changing your oil.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, you sit back and you think, God, we're sitting on gold mines for free if we'd just known what,
Holy
but I was,
shit.
I was playing with those things. I didn't care what they might be worth something.
That is cool as hell. I collected those starting lineup. Those
yeah.
For people that I don't know if you said it already, they were basically action figures of athletes, professional athletes.
They started out with baseball, and they basically went through every major league team, and they picked the top 3 players.
There's a Tim Laudner starting lineup guy. Do you have that one?
I probably do. Honestly, I probably do, especially if he was big in 89, 90.
Yeah.
Or was it late 90s?
No, 80s. Yeah, late 80s.
Okay, then I'm sure I do.
Yeah.
Because I had all of them.
Yeah.
And they would have the back of the card would have would come with a baseball card and the figure, and then the back of the card that the figure came on was like a checklist.
Yep.
It showed every team and who they made for every team, and then they moved into football and basketball. They even did hockey, and then they did they were huge for a while. I really missed the boat on those, selling them for what they were worth.
I bet I have a. Yeah, they didn't. They were doing throwback. They went to Mickey Mantle and locally or Harmon Killebrew had one.
Yeah. Well, when I go through, because I'm going to be going through them soon. I'm in the process of finishing my basement, which is going to be the ultimate man cave.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad I still have a lot of those figures, because I just want to have a ton of starting line of figures around the walls. But if I find any old twins, I'll be sure and hook you up. I know I have Herbeck. I'm pretty sure I have Puckett.
I have Puckett. That's about the only one I think. I might have. I have one Herbeck, and I got a Puckett. But at this salvage store, I found randomly in Minneapolis, they had every Chicago Cubs starting lineup figure from '89, including
Ryan Sandberg.
Yes, Ryan Sandberg was my favorite player, so I have
Dawson,
5.
Dawson.
Jody Davis. Remember that name? Yes.
Yeah.
Andre Dawson, and then here's the one that's worth money that I have: Greg Maddux
as a Cub.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's worth some money.
In some books a few years ago, it was up to $350.
No kid, packaged and mint condition.
And mine's, I never opened it.
Oh,
It's not
good
mint.
for
The
you.
card's not mint, but I did hold on to all of those and unopened. So
I was so I'm
We'll
still
see.
to this day jealous of my cousin. My cousin was like 4 or 5 years older than I am, and he was like the quintessential star in high school. I mean, he was like lettered in 4 sports, valedictorian. When he graduated, my dad, I'll never forget, he brought home this bag of starting lineup heads. Like from all different sports, and I remember like I was like, this is Brian Bosworth, because it had the shaved side of
That's
his
the
head
first
and
thing
stuff.
dude,
I was
it's
like, this is
amazing.
Brian Bosworth.
Yes.
I know that, but he brought home just a random, and we had to go through, and we were like, which one looks the most like Joe, my cousin? And then we picked it out, and then we put it on a basketball player's body of
yeah.
and then he had it sent up to their to the art department, and they painted on my high school's basketball uniform.
Get outta here.
And that was his graduation present, was his own starting lineup of him in our high school. And I was like, Dad, I go, this is the only thing that I want when I graduate is my high school baseball uniform on a starting lineup. And then when I was a sophomore, he left to go work for another company. And so I'm still jealous, because that was like the one thing I wanted was my own starting lineup, and I never got it. And my cousin has his to this day still.
I need to step in and apologize to any women that are still hanging with us listening to this. I'm sorry.
Us nerding out over toys.
I'm sorry. You know what? And for the women that actually like this, thanks. I know you do exist, but
And to
I
their
know
boyfriends, good for you.
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
Good for
exactly.
you.
Yeah,
you know how to pick them.
Yep, exactly. I know this is totally nerdy, but I love this stuff. This is
Me too, and I apologize if I was supposed to be funnier than I have been.
no, this is great. And when you said about the heads, I swear to you, the first one I thought of, because I had it, was Brian Bosworth. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, because it did. It had the shaved blonde hair and shaved above his ears. Unbelievable. The Larry Bird one has the little short shorts. I had that one. All that.
The awful tiny mustache.
We should talk about some, about your career.
Okay.
How did you end up? What happened? How did you get into comedy? We do need to know that.
Well, I always wanted to be on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And I was in college, and I was kind of like I had a summer job. They talked me into continuing to work for them after summer was over, and to go to school at night. And I was like, okay, this is great. I'll have experience in my field, blah, 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 whatever. And then right after Christmas, they laid off like 80 people because they had lost their contract with this big company we were all working for. And so all of a sudden I found myself like out of, like, not in school full time, and the school was on Christmas break, and I couldn't register for classes. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just like find some, job at a restaurant or something for the spring semester, and then I'll go back and finish and get my degree.
Right.
And in that amount of time, I did my first open mic night, and I loved it. And then that company that my employer had lost the contract with contacted me. It's Procter Gamble. I don't know if anybody knows who they are, but they're a giant company, and most people know the things they make, but they don't know they're all made by one company.
Okay.
So, but they're based in Cincinnati. So Procter Gamble, which is like the job that I would go to college to get, said, we heard you did a good job when you worked here as a contractor. How about applying full time? And I was like, okay. So I started that process, and in the meantime, I was doing open mic nights. And then almost a year later, they hired me. So it's like, now I have the job that I was going to school to get. I'm doing stand up at night.
Yeah.
And I was there for about 6 months, and they were like, are you gonna go finish your degree? And I was like, well, if I go get a degree, am I going to get like a huge pay raise?
Yeah.
And they're like, no. And I go, well, I kind of like doing stand up at night. I was really getting into it. And at the time, Cincinnati didn't have a ton of local comics, so I was getting a lot of stage time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I think I'm going to just kind of work here during the day, and this is how I want to spend my nights. And they didn't really fight me on it. And so I did that for a couple years. And then I was kind of slowly starting to get to that spot where I thought I might be able to do comedy full time, go out on the road. Mitch Hedberg was the first guy that took me out on the road to open for him.
Really?
And he was my favorite comic, so it was extra surreal.
Yeah.
To like, I would use my vacation days to go to North Dakota in February because it was with Mitch, and they'd be like, "This is, most people go to Florida in the summer.
Yeah.
You're going to 10 below Grand Forks, North Dakota." And I'm like, "Well, I'm working with Mitch Hedberg. Like, this guy is going to be a legend."
Yeah, and those people were like, "Who are you talking about?
Right.
Mitch who?"
Right.
Yeah.
It's exactly what they were.
I'm sure.
So the P&G was having some cutbacks, and before they said, "Here's who has to leave," they said, "Who wants to leave?" And I was 24, and I thought, I have enough time to bounce back if this is the wrong decision, but I think it's the right one. And so I took a buyout. I took 6-month salary and benefits, and my last day was Friday, July 13th, 2001.
Oh, wow.
And then the next 6 months was rough. I mean, I was working like 1 week a month, and I went from having this sweet day job in a nice apartment right in downtown to like staying in the attic at my cousin's house, and mac and cheese for dinner every night. And I was like, this is rough. And then I went to Indiana. I went up to where Notre Dame is because I've always been a Notre Dame fan. I just wanted to work the club there, and the lady who booked it, we hit it off, and she was like, "Are you working a lot?" And I was like, "Not really. I'm kind of having some trouble." I said, "Most of the places I've gone are having me back once I'm there. It's just getting in the first time because there's 200 comics that are calling that they have no idea who they are, sending VHS tapes that I know they're never going to watch."
Right.
And she was like, "Well, I'll make some calls for you if you want." And that next year, 2002, I worked 50 out of 52 weeks on the road just because she was the one making the calls to get me work instead of me.
Yeah.
And at that time, especially, a lot of club bookers were managing comics that lived in their town.
Okay.
So it was a lot of, okay, well, you can bring your guys to my club, and then I want you to have Josh at your club.
Sure.
And so that was like the biggest thing that could ever happen to me, honestly, because that stage time was so valuable in developing, my act and just trying to figure out what I wanted to really talk about.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Los Angeles and got a manager there, and he got me into Montreal and the Premium Blend on Comedy Central, which later became Live at Gotham, and I don't even think they're doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's like you do 6 minutes with some celebrity host.
There'll always be some form of that show, probably.
So I did that, and both of those things within a month of each other, and I had already moved back to Ohio, because when I signed with him, the first thing he said was like, "I don't want you doing any shows in LA," and I was like, "Well, I'm on the road constantly just to afford living here. Mm-hmm. So if I can't do any time, I'll probably just go home to Cincinnati." And he was like, "Well, until you've either done a festival or been on television, I don't want you doing any shows in LA." So I moved back to Ohio, and then 6 months after that, I did Montreal and got on Comedy Central. So I was like, I'm not going to turn around and just move right back. I'll stay here for a year, then go back to LA or something.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, I got picked for the South Beach Comedy Festival, which Comedy Central put on. It was the first time they did it. While I performed there, the head of the network saw me opening for Greg Giraldo.
Yeah.
And then he liked me enough that through the right channels helped me get a half-hour special.
Yeah.
And then that half-hour special got me a record deal. And then I released an album on Comedy Central Records 2 years after that. And then that kind of, at that point, I started headlining everywhere. And it's like all that stuff happened while I lived in Cincinnati, not living in LA or New York. You know what I mean? Which is was what everybody was always telling me and every other comic is, you want to do those types of things, you got to be in New York or LA.
Right.
And I think just with the age of the internet and stuff like that, more people are able to sort of get those things without having to move.
Oh, yeah.
So,
especially more so, yeah. No.
Yeah, so I've stayed in Ohio this entire time, because, most of the gigs I do are in the Midwest or, somewhere that's easy to get to from Ohio than L.A.
Yeah.
And you get way more for your money. All my family lives there. And then, of course, I met my wife and we have a kid. So it's like, it's kind of bucked the trend, but I think the trend is changing. But in a nutshell, to answer your question, that's how I got started.
What happened with the Saturday Night Live dream?
Well, I thought the reason I did stand up the first time is I thought this will be a good place to start. Just be on stage, try to figure out how to write, and then I just fell in love with stand up.
Yeah.
Like, I always still thought it would be cool to be on Saturday Night Live, and kind of made it a goal, but it didn't become like the end all be all where, like, if that didn't happen, then I would be unsatisfied. And then a really good friend of mine got onto the cast at SNL.
Who was that?
Finesse Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've met him.
Yeah, I think he's been here before.
Did I?
I could have sworn I saw his name in the green room.
Yeah,
but
I think I saw him here. That sounds right. He's definitely been in town. I've met him a few times.
He and I, we worked together randomly once in Atlanta, and then he was living in LA at the time, and I had just moved there. And then he called me, and he's like, I made the final audition for SNL, and it was being held at the Laugh Factory, so I went to watch the show, and it was really weird because it wasn't like a typical stand-up. It was kind of like they were displaying why they should be on SNL, and it was him and Kenan Thompson and this guy D-Ray and JB Smoove. There was like this was like, okay, we're about to see who the next black guy is, And Kenan and Finesse got hired as performers, and JB got hired as a writer, and you know who JB Smoove is? Love him.
People would know him from Curb Your
Enthusiasm.
Probably.
Yeah. Larry. God, he's so good on that show.
He's hilarious. Yeah, he's very funny.
So Finesse got the gig, and then within a week, literally, like, he got the gig on Friday, and he was like, I have to be in New York on Tuesday.
Crazy.
Moved, like, packed all his stuff up, was staying in a hotel, and then we finally found a place. And then, so, maybe like twice a season, for the 3 seasons he was on, I would go to New York, stay with him, hang out backstage. And I was like, I genuinely became okay with, if I never get on this show, if this is as close I get, I'm completely cool with that, because I was literally 1 degree of separation. I got to be backstage at Studio 8H.
That's cool.
I got to meet Lauren and all of the cast members, and then whoever the host and musical guests. I had sit down conversations with Steve Carell and John Krasinski and Lindsay Lohan and Usher. It's just like. And I never once took it for granted, and I just, I was always super appreciative of Finesse for letting me come just hang out.
That's awesome.
And, we would walk out during the musical guest, and literally the entire audience is behind us, and we're behind the camera that's 5 feet in front of whoever was singing. Yeah. And I'm like, if I'm this close, I've done enough things right in my career to put myself in a position to be this close. So I've been okay with it, and I was just, I met Mike Myers, and just, so.
Do you, we're almost running out of time. I have to ask you about the t-shirt thing. Is that yours?
Yes.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I've always sold shirts, like, even when I was like emceeing, much to the dismay of a lot of other comics that frowned upon, like you're not supposed to sell stuff until you're at least middling,
Right.
At the time, like, I had a shirt that was really popular. Like, it just sold itself, I would hold it up and people would be like, I want one. And, it's like, once you figure that out and how to pitch it on stage, it's hard to walk away from it, because it's like, it's a decent amount of money. And so a friend of mine is a really talented artist, and he kind of dabbled in comedy, and we were trying to figure out a way that we could do a project together. And so I was like, well, what about a website that sells funny t-shirts? I go, we could both come up with the ideas. You can do the design, and I'll talk about it when I go out onto the road. If I'm, I can bring it up on the radio, or after shows, I'll pass out cards with the website on it and that kind of thing. And so 6 years ago, we started making these designs, and like, we were paying a guy to make them for us, and then if we needed one, we had to buy 12. So my buddy, he had his entire living room was where our inventory was, and he would just mail them out as people ordered them. Yeah. And they were like, you know what, screw that guy, we can make them ourselves. So I got a loan for like $20,000, and we bought screen printing equipment and rented a space, and it's like, now we're in business for ourselves, and we hated making t-shirts. Like,
really?
It was like the worst thing ever.
Really?
Yeah. And we were like, this is not what we want to do, because we ended up becoming a screen print company instead of like coming up with cool stuff to sell. Yeah. And so we were like, we got to get out of this business. And so then, whatever, 6 years later, now we're partnered with a company in Cincinnati that prints on demand. Like, they have this awesome printer that literally, like a piece of paper in your home printer.
Yeah.
It just literally goes across the shirt as it's coming out and prints you can print a photo right onto the shirt. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But what's awesome for us is we don't have to carry any inventory now, so we come up with as many ideas as we can.
I was looking at it last night. There's very timely ones.
Yeah,
They got
that's
Olympics
kind of what
ones
we've
up
become known for. I mean, even more timely than that. Like if somebody dies or there's an earthquake or something happens, Bin Laden gets killed.
Have you come up with the Gore Vidal shirt?
Not yet, but we're on it. Sometimes we'll have it that day. We'll literally it'll happen, and then 3 hours later we'll have a shirt about it. And that's what, in this day and age, like that's what's huge, because for something to go viral, people are like, wow, this shirt, like this just happened 2 hours ago, and now this shirt's already available online.
Yeah. We'll say the name of the site.
It's lookatmeshirts.com. If you go to lookatmeshirts.com, it's a lot of pop culture references. Like our big sellers right now are Breaking Bad t-shirts.
I saw some Star Wars ones on there.
There's a couple Star Wars. That's been our biggest seller this year, is when the New Orleans Saints got in trouble for the bounty hunting program that they had. We put out the Boba Fett bounty hunter, but his helmet looks like it's a Saints helmet now.
I didn't see that one.
It was on ESPN. It was on the NFL Network.
Really?
It was awesome.
That is awesome.
For like 2 straight weeks, it was like flooded with orders for it. And then it went away. And then the punishment came out for it. Because we put it out when the story broke.
Right.
But then like a month later, the punishment came out for it. So everybody was searching for it again. Through the roof. And that's what we live on, is those 1-2 week instances of like something happened in the news, and we make a shirt about it, and everybody buys it for 2 weeks, and then no one's talking about it.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been great. We
My
both got
pleasure.
to go to the Twins game. I worked. You watched. We
That's
did
right.
this. You got shows tonight. So you're here Thursday, 2 shows Friday and Saturday.
That's right. And if you're on Twitter, it's at Josh Sneed, and Facebook.com/Josh Sneed. If you really just go to JoshSneed.com, you can find links to the T-shirts and all the fun stuff I do on Facebook and
Are you
Twitter.
saying that your website has everything anyone possibly
could
needs?
ever want? Hey, I see what you did there, and I shouldn't have talked over it, because we would have hit the post. Cue the laugh track.
I know. No laugh track.
Oh,
Damn it. Anyway, that's it.
Thanks,
Pete
man.
Lee is the guest next week.